All right, so where do we go from something like Project Earl, a concept model, to Alias 2014 or concept modeling inside of Alias? And the idea that you can go from inside of one package, from a sketch, working with mesh data, to amazing hardware shading, to theme model selections, to a Class A model, all under the roof of Alias, from beginning sketches to a delivered Class A part with no modules, no plugins, one tool.
でここから先は現在皆さんもお使いいただいているエイリアスの話になります。で、長年のユーザーであり、開発のリードを取っているケビン・ケッチャムの方から、エイリアスでコンセプトモデリングから最終造形データを作る、時のいくつかのツボのような話をちょっとさせていただければというふうに思います。
So this past year, I spent quite a bit of time working and talking with customers about what they really wanted inside of Alias, and you'll see this afternoon by Kasamoto that in 2014 we really tried to make this release for power users, not for new users, but for real day-to-day power users of Alias. And so part of this presentation is concept modeling, is tools that have already existed, and a couple of tools that are new for 2014, as well as the Class A tools that are pretty much all about 2014 new functionality.
後ほど2014の新機能についてはまた別途デモがございますけれども、ケビンの方からはその新機能の一部も含めてコンセプトモデリングから造形までこういうエイリアスの使い方もあったねっていうお話を少しさせていただきたいというふうに思います。
So if you open up Alias 2014, one of the things that we wanted you to recognize is that, and we felt that was important, is that the designer can focus on his work, not palettes and shelves and menus. And again, you'll see this afternoon a little more a deep dive in that. But I try to create the analogy that when you ride your motorcycle, you put on gloves, you put on a good helmet, and you put on good boots, and then you're ready to ride, you're ready to drive. And we felt that when you get into Alias, we wanted you to have a similar experience, that when you're ready to work, we wanted everything to be in its spot where it's supposed to be, and then that way you can get busy creating the surfaces and the design that you're supposed to be doing.
ちょっと変な例を出してましたけども、バイクに乗るときに、ジャケット着て、手袋して、ヘルメットかぶってっていうように、やっぱりエイリアスを使うときに、やっぱり皆さん自分の好みの、パレットの配置だとかアイコンの配置だとかあると思います。で、これを開いたらすぐに出てくるようにしておくと、やっぱり最初にあれしてこれしてあれして、で、それから仕事が始まるというよりは非常に便利なんじゃないかというふうに思いました。
So you'll find out about workspaces this afternoon, but workspaces give you the power to set up your complete custom environment, and we still believe that that's one of the competitive edges of Alias, is that total customization, tuned for the way that you like to drive, and workspaces provide that environment for you.
後ほど詳細出てまいりますけれども、そのためにワークスペースという機能を今回2014で使えるようにしました。
So let's talk about Class A modeling and concept design. We're going to cover 7 topics for the first part of concept design. I'd like to point out the sketch here, kind of a hardware shade and alias with very little sketchbook. But what I want you to notice is that although it's a cool design, I don't see any door cuts or parting lines or shut faces. And it makes it really challenging to make a good decision on this model without those small details.
でこれからちょっとコンセプトモデリングのところで7つほど話題を挙げていきますけれども、最初にちょっとこのスケッチを見ていただいて、このスケッチ、エイリアスのシェーディングでちょっとスケッチブックで手を加えてるんですけども、パーティングラインがなかったり、いくつか肝心なディテールがないので、多分これだけだときっちりとした判断ができないだろうっていうふうに思っています。
So the next 7 topics that I'll talk about kind of identify and emphasize the power and the strength of the Alias concept modeling tools. One of them is going to be Curve Network, Sketch Project, the flexible history that's an Alias, an all-new tool called Path Array, also Radial Array, which you'll see this afternoon in detail, the Ball Corner tool. I think might seem like a little feature, but it's actually a giant when you think about the amount of time. And I'll show that to you that you save with the ball corner tool, and then finally the panel gap. And the panel gap is kind of where we could possibly use this to do all your door cuts and shut faces, even in the concept stages.
でこの中の7つがすべて新機能というわけではありませんけれども、こういった7つのツールをもう一回見直していただくと、コンセプト段階でのモデリングっていうのも非常に効率よくできるんじゃないかということで少しお話を進めてまいります。
So the power of the curve network. If you haven't used the curve network, it's been in Alias I think since like version 8.5 or even 9. But it's got a long beard. It's a mature tool, but it's still very powerful. And I'll just kind of show you if you haven't used it recently, it's a very powerful tool. I'll jump into Alias right now.
でまず最初カーブネットワーク、これずいぶん昔からエリアスにありますけれども、ここでちょっともう一回見直していただいて、そうバカにしたもんでもないぞということをちょっと実際にエリアスで使ってお見せしたいというふうに思います。
So usually when you're starting out with a design, you've received some sketches or you've created some sketches that you want to start out with, and then usually you'll have a side view sketch as well, another view, and then of course create a top view of your model. Let me turn on the hardware shading real quick. I'll say shade on. And so once you've got your sketches and kind of brought them into Alias, which is pretty easy to do, I'm going to go ahead and create some curves here. And these curves are basically my, let's turn off the top view sketch here. So my curves are just kind of a quick way to construct kind of an idea what the sketch might look like. And so the curve network tool allows you to, with a little bit of history and very simple curve geometry, to create some forms really quick.
これはスケッチを元にして、まず 3次元のカーブを作っていくと。大体それで大まかな3次元の形は分かりますけれども、ここからカーブネットワークを使っていって、まず最初に大きな全体のボリュームを見るということをやる上では非常に有効なツールというのは皆さんご存知の通りですね。
So now I've got kind of a form that I can start to look at and sketch over. I'll turn off my curve network right now and also turn off the isoparms. But I think the real strength is, of course, all this has history attached to my curves, that if I move any of those curves, all the surfaces are going to update in real time. But now I'm going to go ahead and just say, I think I'm going to project that sketch onto the body, but I think I'm going to drop out the front because I think I have a different sketch for the front area. Maybe turn off the front glass and maybe the roof as well. Maybe drop off a couple of these other shapes here. So I'll just toggle that one off. So I've got the surfaces active. Maybe drop this as well.
でここではカーブネットワークで作った形にスケッチをちょっと載せてみたいと思います。
And then let's go ahead and select my canvas. Yeah. And then let's go ahead and use canvas and say project sketch. So I have the canvas selected and the surfaces from the curve network active, and just those two active and active geometry, active canvas, and say go. So now I've got a fast idea what this curves and graphics look like on this form before I start to invest. Maybe I can do another projection or sketch projection onto the model, or even take my sketch and move it a little bit and adjust it so it looks good. And now I have one more sketch that I want to project on the front. So let's go front view sketch. Maybe turn off my side sketch now. I'll toggle on the front surfaces that I didn't project onto. So let's pick these surfaces here up front that I want to use, and maybe grab that and that. Maybe let's add these two. And again, grab the canvas.
で同じようにフロントにもスケッチをプロジェクションしておきますね。
And I'll say go. So now I've got another canvas, and I can keep doing that over and over. But I've got a little video here that kind of highlights that workflow. Once you've gotten your curve network created, you can also Alias is the only one that does this, is sketch project. It's pretty powerful. So let's just look at this real quick. So take your curve network model, and then take curves and attach it to your sketch. You can't do this in Photoshop. You can't do this in any other application. Be able to stretch and modify the 2D sketch, and then the sketch is projected onto my sketch model, and I can play with the forms. I can see that my sketch is kind of underneath the form, so I need to pull it up a little bit. I'm warping and stretching the sketch, and then projecting it onto the simple model.
で今度は逆にスケッチの方にカーブネットワークをプロジェクトして、カーブネットワークを変えるとスケッチも変わるっていうちょっと逆の使い方をちょっとビデオでお見せしています。
And now I'm using another overlay canvas and adding even more detail. So overlay canvas with symmetry sketching, the awesome sketching brushes that are inside of Alias, and using that now to project another version.
また最初に作ったカーブネットワークで作ったものにスケッチを投影したもの、またこれにオーバーレイのスケッチを重ねていってよりディテールを書き足していくということでイメージを固めていくということもできると思います。
And then I recognized at the beginning there, let me scooch back just a little bit right here. Right at the beginning, right here, I pulled up some of my curves because we had shock towers that the hood was kind of poking through. So I moved that curve up a little bit to allow for the change in the package, and then redid another sketch project to see how that looks. Yeah.
でもちろんこういった形で設計上限が変わったときにカーブネットワークを変更して形を変えていくっていうようなことでデザインを追い込んでいくっていうことができるようになると思います。
So, talking about Sketch Project and Curve Network, we need to talk about history. The history inside of Alias allows you to make changes in real time without having to destroy all the fillets and radiuses and the modeling that you've done. And I'll go to model to kind of highlight those attributes.
少しヒストリーがここでも登場していますけどもう一度ちょっとヒストリーをコンセプトモデルでどううまく使ったらいいかっていうような話をしていきたいというふうに思います。
So here's a hood model that is very simple, but I think it tells a very powerful story. This I've got a hood here, and Alias, of course, uses HDR images for your lighting in your environment. So you've got real-time lighting coming from an HDR image. But I want to show you how fast the history updates. Let's go ahead and modify this form right here. So I'll grab my little hot box. If you haven't seen this, this is under CV Transform.
これはCV トランスフォームということで、フットの面とフィレットがあるんですけども、これを変更していったときに、ヒストリーがどうやって繰り返し作業を減らしてくれるかというのをお見せしたいと思います。
So I'm just going to modify this, push this up a little bit because we were told that the shock towers were poking through the hood. And a designer can quickly come in here and make that change. And maybe he wants to pull this edge down or maybe push both of these up here. I'll push these up together. And notice that my fillets are all updating, G2, G3 continuity, all updating in real time.
ここでは例えば設計のポイントが変わったので少しフットの形状を変えるということをやる場合ですけども、このようにフットの基本面を変えていってもきちんとフィレットがついてくるというのが一つのヒストリーの利点ですね。
So any other package, you'd have to undo everything and start over. So.
この辺はエイリアスの特徴的なところで、他だとアンドゥを繰り返して戻ってまたやり直すという作業を何度も繰り重ねないといけなくなるというふうになっていると思います。
So in 2014, and you'll see a very detailed explanation of this, we've introduced Path Array. And the reason why we introduced Path Array is that we talked to customers that were doing interior renderings, and they said, we are losing a lot of time. Designers have to sit there and add this detail. So we didn't see that as a sketchbook or a SIDS problem or a Photoshop problem. We saw that as designers wanted to create details very quickly in real time. And so Path Array is one of these tools that you'll see presented this afternoon that allows a designer to see and search and discover again in real time.
これは後ほどデモでご覧いただけると思いますけれども、パスアレイといってもこういったシートの縫い目のような形状、これをエイリアスの中で今回作ることができるようになりました。でこれは今までですと形を作らないで、レンダリングをした後に Photoshop なりスケッチツールで書いていたり、マヤでモデリングしたりしていたものをエイリアスの中でデザイナーが自分で決めるようになることができます。
And of course, a radial array is a very good example for when you're doing speakers or complex designs and shapes. And again, you'll see a very detailed explanation like Samoto here in just a minute.
で同じようにこういったスピーカーグリルなんかですが、放射状のパターン形状といったのも今回2014で作ることができるようになっています。
And ball corners, as I mentioned a little bit earlier, they're very time consuming. And any other application, the ball corner tool, the geometry that's created has to be destroyed in order for it to be a Class A model. This geometry that you see in typical ball corners, other applications, the geometry just is not a good geometry. It's not the right structure for Class A. And each ball corner takes from 7 to 5 minutes for someone to create. And if you consider how many of those ball corners are on an exterior and then multiply that by about 30 for an interior, you can see where a lot of time and effort goes. Let me show you the ball corner inside of Alias.
で次はボールコーナー。これフィレットの集合部なんですけども、普通作っちゃうとああいう形で頂点に全部面が集まっちゃう形になってしまうんですけども、これはやっぱり最終造形データとしては質が良くないので、ちゃんとした面を作ってあげた方がいいはずですね。
So here we have a front end of a concept car, and you can see, if I toggle off the model real quick, you can see all these ball corners that are everywhere, and that's just on one half of the vehicle and a very small portion of the car. And this structure is not a good structure for Class A, no G2, no G3 structure. You'd have to start over. When I was talking about ball corners earlier, I felt like the ball corners were kind of like stars. There's so many, and you think 5 to 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes, 5 to 7 minutes. It'll take away your whole day. So let me just show you the ball corner tool inside of Alias here.
こういった頂点が集まっているような面を作っちゃうと、そこが G2、G3 にならないので、最終的にやっぱり造形データとしては質が悪いので、最終的には作り直すことになってしまいます。で、そうならないように、数が多いフィレットの集合をボールコーナーという形で簡単に作れるようにしたのが、今回のエリアスの一つです。
So this is a round, not a ball corner. And this structure cannot go to Class A. Let's show you how the ball corner works. Let's go and select under surfaces, ball corner. And so what is it really, what's the power of the ball corner? It saves you so much time, and the structure is ready for downstream Class A. So I've got 3 surfaces here, 1, 2, 3. So here's how this works. You just select those 3 ball fillets, space bar, select the face, and there is your ball corner. Next, excuse me, let's not move the mouse around here. Again, just picking a face, and we have that all has explicit control with curvature, explicit control, and we can lighten that up or increase the geometry as needed, and to sculpt the forms. So again, just select these, and to do this typically in another package, it's very involved. So just that fast, we were able to create really nice ball corners. So let's select this material here.
サーフェスの下に、ボールコーナーっていうのがあります。ここで、集合する3つのフィレットと、どれか基準になる面を1つ、言っておくと、自動的に流れる形のコーナーを作ってくれるということになります。
So we can also play with basically the shape of the ball corner, again with the history. If you don't like how the highlights are going, you can widen those open. Again, keeping those shapes to be more sympathetic here. So again, all with history, all with good structure to go to Class A. Time saver, big time saver.
こういったようにいくつかのヒストリーとパラメータを変えていくことで、ハイライトの通し方です。そういうのをある程度コントロールできますので、一つ一つ手で作っていくよりは非常に時間が短縮できるというツールになっているというふうに思います。
All right. So we talked about ball corner, and you can see the speed that you can save there. In panel gap, we're still talking about concept modeling, and I find that the concept model really suffers from not having shut lines and shut faces. And just looking at this kind of design here real quick, we can see that from this panel gap to this feature, there's different distances and negative space and how these shapes talk to one another. If this panel gap was not there, and you made a design decision, and then engineering gives you where your panel gaps need to go or proposed, you probably would maybe redo this line so you have a little better relationship there. So we find that panel gap is very important for even concept model stages.
パネルギャップ、パーティング作る機能なんですけども、これ実は最終造形データを作るときにやればいいんじゃないのっていう話もあるかもしれませんけれども、実はやっぱり今お見せしたように、キャラクターラインとパーティングの関係をやっぱりコンセプトでもきちんと決めておきたいっていうふうになると、やっぱりこのパネルギャップツールをうまく使っていただけるといいかなというふうに思ってご紹介する次第です。
So we have here we have a hood that's been created, and that's a giant gap, by the way. Let's fix that. So we see this form kind of coming around here, and I think that this looks a little bit too round or too full in here. And once we put the panel gap into the equation, let's toggle off that background. Okay, and let's also turn on our model. So we see that we have this set of curves here that we have projected down in a top view and are manipulating, and it all has history. So if I want to modify this and maybe make this a little more, flatten it out, put a little more tension in the line, I can do that. So I'll just pick my CVs here. Let's grab these guys and maybe add that one and do a CV transform here. Panel gap all has history, right? So I can go ahead and say, let's just go ahead and move you in a true Z location. So let's move this over a little bit. And we're going to, I'll have a different file. All right, well, let's just do it in real time then. Let's pick all these, let's pick this curve on surface here. Pick curve on surface. All right, let me open up the other one because I
こういった面上線ですとか、それを投影したような下のカーブですとか、こういったものを変更することで、リアルタイムで面上の
Yeah, there we go. All right, so I've got the hood. I've got this curve right here. Let's go ahead and project it. So of course you can do projecting in the Z-axis. So let's just go ahead and select that. And you notice that it gives us a curve on surface right away. And of course, if we want to move that line, we can explore that a little bit and move it forward a little bit. Maybe move it, move these CVs in. But now let's just use the panel gap tool. So the panel gap tool is under surfaces and panel gap right here.
下のカーブがパネルギャップのラインだとして、それを面上に投影しました。
I'll make these numbers a little smaller and also check our curvature here, all with history. And so let's go ahead and also turn on chain select. Automatic update. So I'll just double click on that curve on surface and maybe add this other curve on surface over here. And it found all the curves on surface, even though those were separate surfaces. And I'll say, OK, OK, and build.
でここで面上線を選んで、必要な指示をして、実際のパネルギャップを作っていきます。これで実際に面を切って、でフランジを立てて、フィレットをかけるといったところまで一括で全部やるようになっています。
So all the surfaces will have history-based radiuses, flanges, all in real time. And if I move the curves that are being projected, all those panel gaps will update. So if I, let's go ahead and now pick the curves here. And maybe we just move those forward a little bit. Or, okay, yeah, let's just move this whole thing forward. I'm going to pick this curve here. Move this forward just a little bit. This curve has history, which is aligned to this, which then is projected down, and all the panels are going to update. So I move that forward a little bit, all that's going to update in real time. So history, panel gap, and allows you to make good decisions on concept models. That is ugly. All right. Too far, but you get the idea that you can adjust your panel gap in real time and see your shapes with all the details and shut faces. It's good.
ここでパネルギャップ、それから面上線のヒストリーをうまく活用することで、案をきちんと可視化しながら見ていくといったようなことができるようになるという例をご紹介しました。これ当然ヒストリーを一旦サスペンドしておいて、カーブだけ動かしていって、これのいいところでヒストリーを再開すると、あんまり 面作成の時間を取られなくてもできるようになるというふうに思いますが。
And there you go. All right. So we're going to switch over to Class A right now. And there's going to be three items that I'll show you and just kind of talk about. You'll see it in detail here in just a minute. But there's three tools that we introduced to 2014. Volkswagen, BMW, General Motors, a lot of our automotive customers were saying, without a barrel or helix tool, we can't consider Alias as a tool set that will allow us to deliver feasibility in a manufacturing workspace. So we had to have these tools, and you're seeing them now in 2014, and you'll see a live demo of that here in just a minute. This is just a quick idea of what a barrel and helix will provide, but just know that very fast, history-based, and will ensure manufacturing feasibility.
でここから先は少し最終造形面を作るのに特化したといえるような機能を3つほどお話していきますけれども、最初はこのサイドウィンドウのガラス面を作る機能でバレルとヘリックスっていう機能が2014から入ります。これはガラスの昇降性を考慮したある一定の R の面をエリアスの中で簡単に作れるようにした機能ですね。
That's what it's going to look like. Okay. So profile tools, the second one. We recognize that also another hard requirement for at least for Volkswagen and many others, that to be able to create complex seals and rubber moldings that we couldn't do it with rail and bi-rail and square. We had to have this other tool that allowed you to take a complex section and run it down a very complex curved path. And you'll see that live here in just a minute, but profile tool now will allow you to create very complex sections, add those sections and modify them, and you'll see that presented live as well.
で2番目がプロファイルツール。これは少し前から入ってますけれども、これはウェザーストリップだとかシールだとかサッシの複雑な断面の形状をある関係を保ちながら複数の断面を使って作っていくといったことが簡単にできるようにしたツールですね。
Also, brand new in 2014, we introduced something called form factor. What form factor means is that if you have two surfaces and they start to open up like this, our old tool, our comb plot wouldn't be consistent. You'd get an inconsistent comb plot that the fillet would change in its shape. The form factor now allows you to keep a sharp form no matter what the surfaces are doing. The fillet will be exactly what you want all the way through. And here's just kind of a quick diagram to explain. Old form factor, not good. The new form factor gives you predictable highlight and comb plots through the rest of the forms, even though you have the tangent angle is changing throughout the forms.
で最後のこれはフォームファクターって言いまして、フィレットですとか他の面との関係を保ちながら面を張っている機能の中に入っている一つのパラメータなんですけども、これを使った形を作る際の計算の仕方を少し見直しました。それをすることによって左にあったような昔だとちょっと直立の分布があまりきれいじゃなかったように見えたものもきちんと強烈な分布を滑らかに通して形を作ることができるようにすることができますというのが今回の一つの改善点ですね。
And then the last one is a surface fillet. We wanted to let you know that you can basically query edit your fillet that you've already created and add another shape, and the surface fillet tool will allow you to add the other form by just doing a shift key. So let's play that video.
次はサーフェスフィレットに少しヒストリーのサポートが追加されましたというお話です。
So we're using query edit to open up the history on that fillet that we created, and then turning on the new surface. And now we can add that form by just hitting shift key and selecting, and it'll add the surface fillet all the way through with G2 or G3 continuity that you're looking for.
サーフェスフィレットなんかで上下の面の数が増えたり変わったりするときに、今までですと1回面を消してもう1回作り直すんですけども、今回からクエリエディットでシフトで追加する面を追加したりということができるようになりますので、そのまま同じヒストリーでフィレットを伸ばしていくということができるようになります。
All very critical for Class A surfacing.
この辺も実際に最終データを作っていくときには非常に時間をセーブできる一つかなというふうに思います。
And then the last message, and you'll see a little more of this, but basically in 2014 we've now given you the ability to reuse the time that you've already spent in Alias and send it to other applications. So Illustrator, now you can read in vector curves right from Illustrator. Go to perspective view and say, okay, I like this, and send it right to Illustrator, vector lines. Also send to Maya, send to Showcase, and then within the very near future, you'll be able to send one click right to VRED.
で、最後に皆さんがエイリアスの中でいろいろ設定したことですとか、形を他のソフトへうまくつなげるっていうことができるようになりつつあります。で、一つはイラストレーターにエイリアスからベクターカーブが出せるようになる。それからマヤにいろいろなレンダリングの設定がいくようになる。それからあと、これから少し先かもしれませんけども、VLED という新しいレンダリングのソフトにエイリアスのレンダリングの設定がいくようになると。こういったようなことをやって、余分な時間を使わないようにしましょうということを今やっております。
With that, that's it. Thank you. ありがとうございます。
以上でケミンの方からのご説明を終わらせていただきます。